Good evening. I want to welcome you to the September 8th, 2021 regular meeting of the Governing Board of the Chandler Unified School District. Our first item is our roll call. Mrs. Nye? Here. Jason Aller.
Here.
Laura Goodman. Here. Here. Thank you, Mrs. Nye. Would you all please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, and please remain standing for a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. We do have a little routine business to get started with. Our first is to approve the minutes of the August 25th regular board meeting. Could I please get a motion?
Madam President, I make a motion to approve the minutes of the August 25th, 2021 regular board meeting as presented.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next, we have to approve and ratify payroll and accounts payable vouchers. Could I get a motion?
Madam President, I make a motion to approve and ratify payroll and accounts payable vouchers.
Second.
All those in favor of approving and ratifying payroll and accounts payable vouchers, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion carries. Mr. Narducci, is there any correspondence?
Madam President, there's no correspondence at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. And tonight, we have Malaysia Hardy from Chandler High School, who will be letting us know what's going on at Chandler High. Malaysia, could you go ahead and speak at the podium? And I see you have a presentation for us also.
Yes,
Welcome.
I do. Hello, good evening. My name is Malaysia Hardy. I'm the student body president over at Chandler High School, and I just wanted to give a little update on what we've been doing at our school and what we plan to keep doing for the rest of this quarter. We started off our year with the annual club fair. The club fair is just, we have all our clubs at our school kind of meet up together. We have 2 days during all lunches where we get our students involved and we get them to join as many clubs as possible, because at Chandler High we want everyone to get involved and there's always something for everybody. This year we had over 33 clubs just participate. That's not the amount of clubs that we have in general. Those are just who are recruiting at the time. As a student council, because we are elected in and we don't take any more members after the year, we use this as a chance to fundraise. We had a little competition between each grade. So each grade came up with a little activity to do during the lunches to fundraise money for our council so we continue to do what we like to do. Seniors, we had a SOCA senior station where students could pick their choice of a student council senior in order to dump a bucket of water on them. The freshmen really liked that one, I'll tell you that. The juniors had a little ice cream sale, so we had a shopping cart, they had a cooler full of ice cream, and then they had a boombox, and let me tell you, they made the most money, I promise you that. The sophomores, they had soda cup pong where it's $1 to play, and then the winner gets ice cream, and then our freshmen did a ring toss game. And once again, it's $1 to pay, and then the winner gets candy. This year, we had a lot more involvement, especially after we weren't allowed to have it last year. We definitely got more clubs, more students involved. I know our BSU club got a lot more students, and that's really good. We have clubs ranging from, obviously, Black Student Union to community service programs like the Letters for Rose, where you write to senior citizens. And then we even have like our volleyball clubs and all our sports clubs and so much more. We make it very available to all our students to join whatever club they want and to make whatever club they want. We even have a new esports club just to play video games. They meet on Fridays and they have lots of competitions and lots of fun. I hear about it all the time. We also had our first Spirit Week. It was supposed to lead up to a assembly, our fall sports assembly, but unfortunately due to weather, it was canceled. But the Spirit Week turned out great. For each day, we had an activity planned for lunch. So Monday was our hippie day. We had our DJ that we use for like the homecoming and stuff like that come out and play some good music and spread some good vibes on a Monday morning. Then on Tuesday, it was frat day, so we had some cornhole and other mini games out for students to get involved, really build up the spirit. Because after last year, it was a little down. I'm not gonna lie. Wednesday, we had 80s workout day. We had some student council members out there doing Zumba. We got as many students as we could out in the courtyard. We had our sophomore class president hosting. He was an amazing DJ during all 3 lunches. He lost his voice. Almost had an asthma attack, but that means he was really into it. He was really into it. I promise he's okay. Thursday, we had our Tacky Tourist Day. We actually invested in a prize wheel, and then we gave little prepackaged snacks out to our students who participated as well. And then Friday was our Cowboys versus Aliens Day, and then we were able to get one of our vice principals into the dunk tank as well as our student council advisor, so the kids love that. There was water everywhere, and there was so much to do. I feel like this was one of the most successful Spirit Weeks, especially with us not being able to do too much with it last year. It was definitely more of an outcome than we expected, and we're really grateful for that, especially for our seniors, because they really encouraged our underclassmen to get involved as well. Also, during the same week, we had our very first football game. So at Chandler High, football is very, very important to us. So we wanted to make sure we kicked it off big and amazing. So what we did was we had a powder toss. Our student section theme was whiteout. We actually ordered white cornstarch, so me and some other members in student council made it blue. Very long process. We cupped over 150 cups individually, and then we handed it out at the game. In the game, we taped off the student section, so it was like a little zone so people with health problems and didn't want to get blue on them could go other places, and we had tons of warning signs everywhere. We also had our homecoming DJ out there and our cold sparks, which really good investment, by the way. It's not flammable. It looks amazing when we score, and the students love it. They go crazy. That's all for what we've done so far in terms of major events, but we do have plans for much more. So this Friday, we have our brand new block party. It's kind of a carnival theme. We're doing it because our football team is playing against a Colorado team called Cherry Creek. So we want to really get as many people there as we can. And so we'll be shutting down the street, Erie Street, right next to our school. It'll kind of be like a carnival setup. We'll have different food trucks. We'll have spirit stores for students who need to buy stuff for the student section. We'll have our DJ there, inflatable games, food trucks, but we won't have any actual tables set up just for COVID restrictions and stuff. We don't want people gathering in the same area. It's too close. So we're using up the entire street. There'll be plenty of room, and it's all free for our students. Our first quarterback has mainly been about promoting school spirit and really getting everybody involved without having to worry about the cost of things. And I would say it's working so far. I'm hearing a lot of really good things, and yes, so that begins on 5 p.m. until our kickoff, which will be around 7, so we get to clean up for 30 minutes and go enjoy the game. And then finally, the reason why we haven't been able to do so many events, homecoming. It's going to be huge this year. So we actually have our sophomores planning it. The date for it is September 25th, and the theme is Wolves in Wonderland, or Alice in Wonderland. Fun fact, our sophomores have never experienced a homecoming dance, so the planning has been very interesting. So we actually launched our tickets next week. It'll be $20 if you buy them at our bookstore and $25 at the door. And we have lots of committees, so for the next 3 weeks, it's all about homecoming. We have an annual parade where we get our clubs involved and we set everybody up. We get our nominees, we get student council floats, and we pull the students out early during their 6th hour, and then we just have a little parade. We have our little route, we go around, see everybody wave, we have some music. It's really fun. It's my favorite part of homecoming. We also have float building coming up, part of the parade. Each class in student council basically gets a theme. We base it off of our homecoming theme, so we pick a scene from whatever the theme is, and then we paint it, and we have a little competition. We really like competitions in my council. Also coming with homecoming, we have our nominees. Our ballots are actually going to go live tomorrow. We've done the promotion for it. We'll be having it in our video announcements as well. And they will be ending on Friday, so we'll be able to kick that off by next week and all that stuff. We are also starting our new hallway decor. So this is something we haven't done yet. We plan to have the committee of 2 to 5 people pick out a hallway in one of our main buildings and then pick teacher doors, decorate for the theme, and then have a big like mural piece at the end to really promote our homecoming. We hope that we do this year, and we kind of give the other teachers around the school like something to see, so maybe they want to get involved next year. So it's not just one hallway. At some point, it'll be the whole school, and I think it'll really boost spirit. And then we also have our halftime game. So homecoming game, halftime is where everything happens. We have all our performances from like our dance programs to our marching band, which is really good. And then we also have like cheer, and then we announce our nominee winners. And yeah, it's gonna be big. I'm really excited for that part as well. And then that is all I have for right now. Is there any questions?
Thank you, Marissa.
Thank you very much.
Did any board have any questions for her? No? It looks like it's really an exciting place to be this year at Chandler High. So thank you so much for sharing everything, and we'll see you back in probably a couple months to let us to update us some more. Thank you.
Good job.
Now is also our time for our citizen comments. And I will first ask Mr. Terry Locke to let us know about the comments that we received online.
Well, thank you, Madam President, members of the board, and Superintendent Narducci. As a courtesy, we provide an opportunity for the public to submit comments to the governing board on any topic. We heard from 17 people since our last board meeting. This week's submissions are categorized in one of three topics: health and safety, mask and mitigation strategies; 2, curriculum and modes of instruction; and number 3, governing board communications. As you will note, feedback sometimes falls into multiple areas and will be listed under more than one category from time to time. Submitting comments electronically provides our governing board members time to read and prepare prior to the meeting. This format also provides the board an opportunity to ask clarifying questions to the administration. You have the submissions verbatim for your consideration. They're also available on the website for public review.
Thank you, Mr. Locke. I just want to remind everyone that members of the board may not discuss items that are not specifically identified on our agenda. Therefore, pursuant to ARS 38-431.01H, action taken as a result of public comment will be limited to directing staff to study the matter, regarding responding to any criticism, or scheduling the matter for further consideration and decision at a later date. This evening, because we don't have as many comment cards as we usually do, individuals will be given 2 minutes to speak, and we'll go up to the podium over there by the door. Our first commenter this evening is Kurt Roars.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. My name is Kurt Roars. I'm a parent in this district. The new reading and proficiency scores have been released on the AZ Department of Education website. As expected, there are disappointing results, perhaps resulting from learning loss during the recent school closures. Although CUSD scores in general are above average, there are several CUSD schools that are clearly struggling. Third grade reading scores regarding its passing at Fry, Galveston, Anderson, Bologna, Sanborn, and Conley elementary schools are in the 30% range or lower. Sixth grade math proficiency scores are in the 20% range or lower at these same schools, with Fry coming in at a dismal 16% passing the proficiency test. This is an urgent crisis in the community that you serve. You are failing with these kids. However, I've never seen it addressed specifically in any board meeting. It is expected that of the board to focus their attention on this critical issue as their highest priority and demand regular progress reports in this public forum. I challenge the district to immediately direct all available resources to achieve at least 50% reading and math passing scores at all schools by the end of this school year. Thank you.
Thank you. Charlotte Gola.
Hello, my name's Charlotte Gala, and I'm a parent to 4 children in district. This week on social media, board member Love equated not masking children in school to child abuse. An expert from the lengthy post reads, "Every state has a law authorizing the government to intervene when parents abuse or neglect their children." The implication that parents who do not mask their children or support a mask mandate in school are abusive is both hateful and dangerous. It is also a narrative that is totally missing the mark on where the district should focus. Instead of focusing on governmental intervention of parenting, let us instead focus on education. Based on the data on the Arizona Department of Education website, in 2019, 58 out of 100 Chandler students tested proficient in math. In 2021, that number fell to 49 out of 100. We just lost 9 kids per 100 as a casualty of COVID education. The greatest gift we can give all children is a quality education. Let's shift our focus there before it's too late.
Thank you.
Point of order. The post that you're referring to is a quote from an article and was not provided by me. That was not my words. There were quotes around what was said on the post. Thank you. That's all
Our
I'm going to
next-
say. Thank you.
Our next is Barbara Hahn.
Hi. I'm a teacher and a parent in the district. It's time for this board and the district to show leadership and not hide behind Maricopa County. You have the power to control the situation. Show respect and compassion for the students and the families in this district and end the quarantine mandate. I have seen firsthand in not only my classroom, but with my own children, the struggles and the damage that is being done to our community students and families. The district has flawed contract tracing and no real evidence to prove that a student was actually exposed. Again, I know this firsthand. To prove this, I ask you to add to your dashboard quarantine students who did and did not get COVID. The district chooses to cover themselves and hide behind county guidelines, which are not actually mandatory. We see surrounding districts not following these. In addition, openly asking which students are vaccinated in front of fellow students? That was the case for my child, and it was a clear violation of Arizona law. As a teacher, I personally see the gap widening. We need to bridge that gap, and you can help. Please work with us to create productive ways to support our students. End the quarantine mandate and let parents decide if they wish to quarantine their students. Help us help our students. Thank you.
Thank you. Caitlin Hahn.
On August 26th, I was quarantined, devastated but powerless to stop it. We were taken to the media center and asked for vaccination cards. That upset me, for it's illegal to ask anybody about vaccination status. My peers were sent to the office through a back door, and finally, 5 minutes after the bell, one other child and I were sent through another back exit, told not to speak to anybody on the way. All vaccinated students came back to school the next day. I was tested negative for the virus that night, but was kept home for an extra day. A Friday, might I add. I was sent home on August 26th, not even 24 hours after the old quarantine policy was reinstated. The damage was already done. If I'd tested positive, I would have already spread my sickness to everyone in my classes. If you believe that my experience was bad, think about the kids who couldn't be tested in time to go back to school on Monday. They had to wait another 7 days before returning, missing assignments such as warm-ups, tests, and lessons that taught them how to take on these tasks. Chandler needs to be more aware of the effect these protocols are having on their students. After all, without the students, there is no school.
Thank you. Philip Campbell. Philip Campbell.
If I knew I had more time, I would have made a little more detail. I know this is going to end up leaving a lot of you wondering, what is this guy talking about? But I hope you'll pay attention and try to track with it. My comments are for parents about the source and nature of religion in public education. And I'm speaking about the religion in public education because it has had a profound influence on where we are today. Since John Dewey in the 1930s, the religious ideology of humanism historically dominated. This is a socialist ideology that shares many beliefs with communism. These ideologies seek power and control over individuals as a natural outcome of their atheism. The vacuum that's left behind by rejecting divine authority, divine authority, is filled by elevating human wisdom and authority to primacy. That wisdom shows that man knows best, life is cheap, we think for you, and the collective is above the individual. When men believe that they're the ultimate authority, they end up acting it. The restraints on man's impulse to play gods has been Christianity and our Constitution. When the atheist rejection of God's salvation leads men to believe they must save the planet, they believe they also have to save themselves. This salvation, humanism attempts through the use of science, technology, education, social science, social justice, and CRT, and many other things. These ideologies are striving to eliminate Christianity from earth to achieve peace and justice.
Thank you. Katie Nash.
Good evening. While we all have differing opinions on mask, curricula, and policies, the one thing that unites our CUSD community is our quality of public schools. We have award-winning people and programs. That is a fact we cannot dispute. And for this reason, Chandler Education Association voted to endorse the CUSD override. Without this override, our amazing people will face a pay cut and our students will lose their much-needed programs. Speaking of amazing people, CEA would like to thank the board for supporting the $1 an hour raise to our support staff. These individuals have been on the front lines since the pandemic began and have been working tirelessly to keep us safe. While we recognize that there is still work to be done, we applaud the district for taking a step in the right direction. Our support staff are truly the foundation of our district, and they deserve to be paid accordingly. Lastly, CEA would like to recognize the literal blood, sweat, and tears our staff have been shedding in order to provide quality instruction and services to our students. We appreciate the potential mitigation stipend and hope that you vote in favor of this small gesture to highlight how our staff has gone above and beyond for over 18 months. And they will continue to provide the quality education they have been trained to deliver. Thank you.
Thank you. Julie Keeley.
Thank you. I'm Julie Keeley. I have a child in the district as well. First of all, I just wanted to say that I appreciate the fact that the governing board has left mask wearing as optional in the district. The fact that the majority of kids are not wearing masks reinforces the fact that mask wearing should remain a choice between families. Unfortunately, Board Member Love continues to drive a false narrative that the majority of people in the district want masks. And if parents don't agree, she refers to them as bullies and the board meetings where they speak as a circus. This is unacceptable and shines a bad light on the district, and this kind of divisive language from a board member needs to stop.
Thank you. Wendy Coakley.
Hi, so I'm Wendy Coakley, and I have a 7th grader at Payne and a stepson in Basha. I don't really have anything prepared because I was literally sitting on my couch and saw the recent post Ms. Love just posted, I think maybe within the last 2 hours, and I think it's what you were just reading about. And it's the same thing, like, I just felt like I am so tired of seeing so much divisive rhetoric from the board. And it's not from you, just from you. I've seen it from you, Mr. Oliver, when you compared people that want freedom of choice with mask wearing to people like in the 70s, like smokers that wanted to smoke in restaurants still. I mean, it was such a degrading remark that I feel like you guys are our leaders on our board. The parents, the children, we all deserve more professionalism. I've sent you several emails, and I know they weren't like the nicest because I don't agree with a lot of the things you do and the ways you do them. Not one response. I haven't gotten one except from Mr. Narducci. He's responded to every email. You have all been silent. It's unacceptable. I get it. Like you say, I'm not going to resign. Like those people can say what they want. They don't like facts, and I'm going to put them in their face. Don't resign because of that, but maybe think about it because you don't really like the job. You're not leading. We deserve better leadership. So just like think about it, raise the bar, do better. If you want to stay, stay, but like think about how you're going to bring the groups together and not continue to build the divide.
Thank you. Lindley Hansen. Lindley Hansen.
Hi, my name is Lindley Hansen. I'm a resident of Chandler, Arizona. I have 3 kids attending the CUSD schools, and I'm opposed to mandatory masks. I don't need to be labeled by pronouns. I'm a mom, wife, and a friend to those that I love. Today, my child is nearing the end of his 10-day quarantine for losing the battle of seat roulette. He is still healthy and COVID-free, as are the rest of the students that also had to quarantine at the same time for the same class. He is normally nearly a straight A student, but I've watched his grades take a nosedive as he misses one assignment after the other. I would like to personally thank the government for limiting my horrible discretion as a parent and protecting my child's health, safety, and welfare by keeping him in quarantine. I would also like to know what time the government officials will be over to help with my child's makeup work. I make dinner around 5 p.m. if you would like to fill in as homework helper while I cook for my family. Also, we have to leave shortly after that to make it to football practice, karate, and band practice. If you can give everyone a ride, that would be great. Be sure to throw in a load of laundry, and don't forget to pack their lunches for tomorrow. Sincerely, an ignorant mother of a martyred child.
Thank you. I would please, so that we can make sure that everyone is treated with respect, please do not show either clapping or booing or anything like that at the board meeting. Thank you. Nicole Eidson.
Oops, hang on. Okay. We need to learn from history the definition of inalienable rights. So I have the Black Laws Dictionary right here. I'm going to read it out of here. The rights which are not capable of being surrendered or transferred without the consent of the one possessing such rights, such as free speech, personal liberty, property ownership, etc. The founders understood that individuals are often stopped from exercising them. This is the very reason that the Declaration of Independence was created, to explain to King George III violations of the colonists' inalienable rights justified the American Revolution. There are statutes in place that must be recognized. ARS 36789, due process for isolation and quarantine during a state of emergency or war emergency. This isn't something that was just made up, right? You guys have the legal obligation to follow these directives. It is a written directive from the health department with an original signature, must be sent to the parents. And everything that is followed in that 36789 ARS needs to be followed. If you don't do this, you cannot legally keep the kids from school. It's called due process. That's what America is built on. Having the ability to stand up and be and shown that we have our rights. Instead of focusing on the dismal scores that Kurt called out, the schools are worrying about flexing their muscles and teaching first and third graders how to understand LGBTQ people. Following the links on the CUSD Care program brought me to the Glenn site, and I found books directed for first to third graders to learn about LGBTQ. I have a gay uncle and a niece who's transgender, so don't label me as a hater.
Thank you. Tanya Combe.
I am a CUSD parent with 3 children in the district. I am deeply concerned about the quarantine decisions you are making and the negative impact you are having on our kids. I'm just one of the many parents who currently has a healthy child who tested negative for COVID, who's being forced to quarantine and being deprived of her education. With the dashboard numbers this low, why are healthy kids being mandated to quarantine? I beg you to make quarantines optional for healthy kids. As parents, we know if our kids are healthy or sick. So if they are not having symptoms, they tested negative, there's no reason that they're being deprived of their education. Please do what's best for CUSD kids.
Thank you. Ann Adams.
Hi, my name is Ann Adams. I have 2 students in CUSD, but I have a CUSD casualty now. Both kids were kept home for quarantine. One of them has an IEP and fell significantly behind during this. There's no plan in place to help these kids get caught up. So then they go back and they get further and further behind. One teacher tells them you got 3 hours of homework, but every teacher tells them, and they have 6 classes that they're behind in. We finally just gave up 2 months into the school year. Now I have a homeschool kid, and they're doing some electives over at Hamilton. And the other kid is sticking it out, trying to get caught up, but there's no plan in place. Instead, you spend money on crazy programs, like the latest one I heard about was Everyone Matters, where it has BLM all over their website. It has a bunch of ASU students that'll go into our school and counsel our kids without any parental consent, which is actually breaking the law. It's a class 1 misdemeanor to send ASU students in to counsel our kids without parental consent, written parental consent. So instead of spending $145,000 on this program, spend it on our kids. I mean, this is ridiculous. It's a total waste of money, and parents are not for it. We are not the enemy. These special interest groups that you're paying off, gobs and gobs of money. Half of you don't even know what's in this material. You don't know that this stuff was on the website. Look it up. It was just taken down. Everyone Matters removed all the political crap that they had on it, that you're paying $145,000 of my taxpayer dollars to run. So help our kids instead. They need it. Thank you.
Thank you. Ryan Heap.
Good evening, board members. Ms. Levy reported in national ABC News that the majority of parents in the district want masks on students. Did I miss a survey conducted of CUSD parents? I'm curious, what data are you looking at to draw that conclusion? I mean, sure, if you ask parents on the west side of the valley, they're going to say that, right? But I'm a parent. I'm a parent of 4 CUSD students. I have 2 at Castile, 2 at Rice Elementary. Never once have I ever said, I want masks on every kid. I said, I want the option, okay? You know, this district lost over 2,000 students. I'm sure that's all on your minds. Hopefully it is. The $15 million budget deficit definitely should be on your minds. You know, but if this is what the district wants to do to push the masks, to push for mandatory vaccines, to push these quarantines, well, I guess maybe Ms. Love and Ms. Bruner, you can just strap in, because you will now be on record for seeing the largest exodus and budget deficit that CUSD has ever seen in a 2-year period. Speaking of quarantines, you know, on what basis are healthy students forced to quarantine because they are sitting next to a student for maybe 45 minutes in a class? And by the way, please don't say science. You know, was it science when Dr. Fauci stated on national TV in February 2020 that masks are just for the sick people, only to backtrack a couple months later? Or was it science when the NEA
30 seconds.
coerced the CDC to put in additional safety guidelines to restrict on the opening of schools for the 2020-21 school year? It sounds like politics. Was it science when the CDC proclaimed that the vaccinated people did not have to wear masks, only to restate that they needed to wear them again? That's not science, okay? It's trial and error, and it's politics. Please stop.
Thank you. Beth Wamsley. Wamsley?
I also live in the district. I'm a mother of 5 students within CUSD. It's time to stop quarantining perfectly healthy students. You know that out of all the healthy students that have been quarantined, embarrassingly few have become sick. I challenge you to post the numbers of healthy quarantine students on the dashboard. I know that your excuse is that you're only following the county's guidance. I'm asking you to push back against the county and do what's right. I'm asking you to fulfill your responsibility to provide a quality, in-person education to the healthy students in our district. My high school kids live in dread of losing at seat roulette. 10 days of quarantine means a full unit plus of material that they will have to learn on their own. They will be expected to complete all the same assignments with little to no instruction. And remember, these kids are perfectly healthy and will likely remain so. While you are making preparations to address learning loss for the district, don't forget that this is one way to prevent learning loss, and it won't cost 1 extra cent. Thank you.
Thank you. And Kathy Zinkon?
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Interim Superintendent Narducci, CSD colleagues, and community members. I'm here to thank you very much for the support staff salary schedule. I saw it on the agenda. Looks amazing. Thank you so much for supporting our support staff who support us. I'm a proud preschool special education teacher, and I could not do it without my 2 aides in my classroom. So thank you very much for supporting our support staff. I also am here to encourage the consent agenda item regarding the mitigation strategies or mitigation stipend for all staff. Really appreciate that. You don't know what it's like to constantly wipe down things and make sure masks are on 3-year-olds and go sanitize your hands and to make sure that things are out of their mouth. So I really appreciate that. Thank you very, very much. I also am here to thank Ms. Love for also addressing the board last board meeting regarding the pre-K discrepancy between the certified staff, all of the certified staff in CUSD, and the certified pre-K teachers, the general education pre-K teachers. I would encourage all of you to go to the website and look at the salary schedules for those two positions, all certified teachers, and then
30
preschool
seconds.
certified teachers. You will see the discrepancies there. I have numbers tonight. There is a $4,142,000 difference between those salaries. They also get half the performance pay. There's no recognition for national board certification, and they only get 4 years of teaching experience compensation. Please correct that this year. Thank you.
Thank you. That was the last of our citizens' comments for this evening. I appreciate hearing from everyone, and for you to take the time to come out to our meetings and tell us about your concerns. Thank you so much. We will now move on to our consent agenda, and Mr. Narducci. I know it's a lengthy one this evening.
Yes, Madam President, members of the board, and audience here. Bear with me because we have about 3 pages of consent agenda. Last meeting, there were a lot of information items, and they moved to consent. So we'll start right away. So 7.01, out-of-state student travel pre-planning. Out-of-state field trip pre-planning forms for Chandler High School and for Perry High School is provided. Following governing board pre-approval, Dr. Gilbert and I will look over those before providing final approval, and the governing board will receive a summary of the travel arrangements quarterly. And just I want to remind individuals that you give the pre-planning so that the schools can start working on their travel plans. 702, monetary gifts. We request approval for the monetary gifts generously donated by the Chandler Schools community, totaling $35,148.43. Also, consent agenda item 7.03, resolution for grade level reconfiguration. Chandler Unified School District needs to update the grade level configuration of Chandler Traditional Academy Liberty from a K-6 to a preschool through 6th grade. The Arizona School Facilities Board and the Arizona Department of Education require governing board resolution to update the grade level configurations of a school, and we're requesting approval. 7.04, classroom furniture refresh for CTA EPA Humphrey campus and Shumway Leadership Academy. We recommend approval to purchase classroom furniture for CTA EPA Humphrey and Shumway Leadership Academy schools. The furniture is replacing classroom desks, chairs, cabinets, tables, bookcases, teacher desks, and teacher chairs. This is part of the continuing plan to upgrade teaching and learning environments for our older schools, and we started that about three to 4 years ago. The furniture order will comply with all required procurement rules, and the classroom furniture will be purchased from Arizona Furnishings using the Mojave contract number 18M-AZF-0130, including all tax and installation in the amounts of $288,066.27 for Shumway Leadership Academy and $301,964.84 for CTA EPA Humphrey campus. Request board approval for the classroom furniture at Shumway Leadership Academy and Humphrey schools for a total amount of $590,031.11. Under 7.05, food program permanent service agreement. Food program permanent service agreement requires new signatories due to changes in personnel. The agreement was approved at the June 9th, 2021 board meeting. Under 7.06, IFB number 30-22-22, Bologna and Tarwater Elementary chiller replacements. This is an exciting one. The chillers at Bologna and Tarwater Elementary are over 20 years old and in need of a replacement. IFB number 30-22-22 for Bologna and Tarwater Elementary chillers replacement was advertised per school district procurement rules. 5 responses were received, and the lowest responsible and responsive bid was received from Interstate Mechanical Corporation, or MCOR, in the amount of $717,900. To move forward with this project through School Facilities Board, Chandler Unified School District must first obtain the approval of the governing board to award the contract. Request governing board approval to award IFB number 30-22-22 for the Bologna and Tarwater Elementary chiller replacements to Interstate Mechanical Corporation, or IMCOR, in the amount of $717,900. 7.07 is school board governance and operations. We heard all of those last meeting. Those were BDF advisory committees, BEDD rules of order, and BIB board member development opportunities. These changes were presented as information at the August 25th, 2021 board meeting. Chandler School District recommends adopting the policies as presented. Under consent agenda item 7.08, instructional program policy revisions. Arizona School Boards Association has recommended changes to the following policies. IC, school year. House Bill 2862 consisted of extensive amending of statutes 15-801, 15-901, and 15-1021, repealing section 15-861. Also, IHAMD, instruction and training in suicide prevention. School district governing boards and charter school governing boards bodies issue identification cards to students grade 9 through 12. If they issue those cards, there is language described in ARS 15-160 that is now included in our policy IHAMD. This language should be adopted by districts that issue identification cards to students in grades 9 through 12. IJ and IJJ are instructional resources and materials and textbook supplementary materials selection and adoption. Policy IJ and IJJ have been updated with additional language from ARS 15-721 and Arizona Revised Statutes 15-722 regarding the definition of textbook. As more districts move away from using physical copies of textbooks in favor of electronic options, the language clarifies that textbooks and printed instructional materials also include digital content. These changes were presented as information at the August 25th, 2021 board meeting. School district recommends adopting the policies as presented. Under 7.09, student policy revisions, Arizona School Boards recommends the changes to the following policies: JFAA, which is admission of resident students; JFAB, tuition admission of non-resident students; Senate Bill 1420, signed by the governor on March 5th, 2021, requires state and any political subdivision of the state, including a school district or charter school, to accept a consular identification card that is issued by a foreign government as a valid form of identification if the foreign government uses biometric identity verification techniques. The policies are related, and related exhibits include the necessary language for schools. These changes were presented as information at the August 25th, 2021 board meeting, and Chandler School District recommends adopting the policies as presented. 7.10, student discipline policy revision. Arizona School Boards recommends the following policies: JK student discipline, JKD student suspension, JKE expulsion of students. The policy advisory for the three policies just mentioned are based on changes to statute contained in House Bill 2123 pertaining to suspension and expulsion of students in kindergarten and grades 1 through 4. These changes were presented as information items at the August 25th meeting, and Chandler School recommends adopting the policies as presented. Under consent agenda item 711, Human Resources Policy Revisions, Arizona School Boards Association has recommended the following policies: JCB, which is professional staff contracts and compensation; JDB, which is support staff. House Bill 2268 added statutes ARS 15-341 45 for traditional public schools, requiring that the school district provide each employee a total compensation statement categorized by benefit or payment that includes specific categories. Also, GCF, professional staff hiring, and GDF, support staff hiring. Per House Bill 2023, before employing a certified or non-certificated person, school district and charter schools are required to conduct a search of the educator information system that is maintained by the Arizona Department of Education on the prospective employee. The additions to policies GCF and GDF are included in the newly enacted Arizona Revised Statute 15-505. GCH, Professional and Support Staff Orientation and Training, House Bill 2906, has added a statute ARS 41-1494, which states in part that a political subdivision, including school districts and charter schools, may not require an employee to engage in and shall not use public monies for training, orientation, or therapy that presents any form of blame or judgment on the basis of race, ethnicity, or sex. This does not preclude any training on sexual harassment, which is a requirement. IHA, Basic Instructional Programming, Senate Bill 1572 changed Arizona Revised Statute 15-211 and moved the deadline by which the district must have at least one kindergarten through third grade teacher in each school who has received training related to dyslexia. The new date was July 1st, 2022. And IMB, Teaching About Controversial Sensitive Issues, House Bill number 2989 added Arizona Revised Statute 15-717.02, which states that a teacher, administrator, or other employee of a school district, charter school, or state agency who is involved with students and teachers in grades preschool through 12th may not use public monies for instruction that presents any form of blame or judgment on the basis of sex, ethnicity, or sex. This language is added to policy IMG. These changes were presented as information at the August 25th, 2021 board meeting. Chandler School District recommends adopting these policies as presented. And lastly, our last one is human resources, employment separation and compensation, and job descriptions are attached, and we recommend approval for that.
Thank you, Mr. Narducci. It was definitely a longer one this time, but I'm glad we were able to go over all of those policy revisions during our information session at the last meeting and have our questions answered for that. So could I please get a motion to approve our consent agenda?
Madam President, I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
All those in favor of approving the consent agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Next, we'll move on to our action items. As a result of our discussions at the last information session at the last meeting on the 25th of August, we did have a couple of questions that came up, and so on some of our policy revisions. So our first one is the revision of policy BEDH, public participation at school board meetings. Mr. Narducci.
Thank you, Madam President. Members of the board, revision of policy BEDH, public participation at school board meetings. Arizona School Boards Association, ASBA, recommended changes to the policy, public participation at school boards. This policy is amended to prohibit unsolicited commercial messages during call to the public. These changes were presented as information at the August 25th board meeting. Chandler School District recommends adopting the policy as presented. I know that there were some questions on that, so this was pulled for those specific questions, which I was able to do some research.
Mrs. Bruner, did you have some, why don't we go ahead and get a motion to approve this, and then we can go ahead and ask those questions.
Madam President, I make a motion to approve policy BEDH, public participation at board meetings as presented.
Second.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. Bruner.
So I guess I just wanted a little more clarification what legal was considering to be unsolicited commercial messages.
Sure. Ms. Bruner, I was able to contact several individuals that are in the policy-making division for ASBA, and this specifically came about based on individuals that are coming in front of the board to circumvent procurement procedures, which could put the district in violation of procurement rules that are upon us. So it would be individuals coming to take time to sell something to the district where there's other avenues to do that and more proper avenues to do that than at a board meeting. We all know that call to the public is an optional thing that our district continues to do so we can hear our public and their concerns. But it wasn't meant for solicitation of services and people coming in here and possibly selling an item or enticing the board to be able to look into that item. I know many times the board will get an information item and they'll send it right directly to Mr. Fletcher or his department or our procurement division, and that's the way we want to go. So basically it was precautions that are enabled for board meetings not to become those solicitation arena for vendors. We have a lot of vendors that want to do services in the district, and so it's one of those areas not to exceed the time in front of the board at that time, because they aren't the decision maker at that time until it comes as a recommendation.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Mr. Olive? No? Okay. If we're ready to vote on it, all those in favor of approving the revision of policy BEDH, please say aye.
Aye.
The motion carries. Our next that was pulled off consent is the revision of policy JFB, open enrollment. Leo.
Madam President, can you hear me? Sorry. Madam President, members of the board, Arizona School Boards Association has recommended changes to policy JFB, open enrollment. House Bill 2898, signed by the governor on June 30th, 2021, made substantive changes to ARS 15-816.01 pertaining to open enrollment. The required information is included in policy JFB to clarify the statutory requirements set forth for open enrollment programs. These changes were presented as information at the August 25th, 2021 board meeting. Chandler School District recommends adopting the policy as presented.
Thank you. Could I please get a motion?
Madam President, I make a motion to approve revisions to policy JFB, open enrollment as presented.
Second.
Mrs. Bruner, did you have some additional questions?
So could you give us some more information exactly on how this is different than what was before? What the changes are?
Sorry, yes, Ms. Brennan, the substantive changes largely dealt with us having to post each school on each school's website. We now have to post the school's capacity and the status of the accepting of applications at each grade level and specialized program, okay? Additionally, it made a change in the mile limit with which we may provide transportation for students with IEPs. Okay.
So I guess my one follow-up question would be in regards to special ed programs in particular, and not just in one district, but in pretty much all districts, it seems, in the Valley and possibly across the state, I'm not sure, outside of the Valley, that there seems to be this gentleman's agreement that we have special needs kids stay in district for the most part, that most programs are considered full. And so a lot of special needs students do not receive open enrollment because of that, not just Chandler, but lots of districts. And when that happens, the idea is that the program is full. But then if someone moves into the district or in that zone and is assigned to that place, we don't hire another staff member or create a new class. And so I guess that's what some folks have issue with, and I think that was brought up possibly even by some of the state legislators this year. And I was just curious if this impacts that at all.
I may defer to Dr. Marshall, who's our student services, not student services, I'm sorry, executive director of personalized learning. So she may be better able to answer some of that.
Hi, good evening. Yes, in many cases, we have to look at, and when a student applies for open enrollment into Chandler, we look at the school that they've requested to attend, and then we look at the services related to their specially designed instruction and related services to see if those services can be provided at that site and if there is capacity to do so. One of the things that we will be working on with Dr. Gilbert is setting up more of a distinct capacity level that would have to be board approved to make sure that we are maintaining space for students that move into the district so that we aren't having to OCR has already come out as of May 2018 in another case in another district that CUSD is not obligated to provide for additional staffing or related services at a substantial cost to be able to provide services to non-resident students. So our obligation is to provide the free and appropriate public education to students who live within Chandler. We do look at if students move into our boundary, we are obligated to provide those services, and if we are tasked to have to hire or to contract for the provision of services, then we have to do that. But the problem lies is that when we take too many out-of-district students, then we are obviously obligating the provision of FAPE for those students who are non-resident students, therefore taking up space for kids who live in CUSD. And we try to balance that budget, as Mrs. Berry had talked about, to be able to pay for those services that can be quite expensive for a variety of students based upon their specific needs. We do have several students that have applied for open enrollment from our priority 4 and 5 groups, meaning the students do not live in the CUSD boundary, but again, it's based on their specific needs and related services, and if we have capacity to meet those needs within our current allocation structure. Does that help? Or did I confuse you more?
I'm not confused. I just, I do feel that this is not a CUSD issue. It's a collective issue across the state that, in effect, what the policy does is it prevents kids with special needs being able to access open enrollment in the way that students without special needs can. And so it's not a criticism of our district, but a criticism of the policy that's being spread by the state legislature and applied to every district that concerns me, especially when we see in multiple districts where a student if they move in, somehow there's room in the program, but if they are out of the district, there isn't room. That is problematic, I think. So again, it's not for you or for any administration here that is doing anything differently than any other district, but it is problematic in my mind that there are haves and have-nots when it comes to open enrollment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions on this policy? All right, all those in favor of the revision of policy JFB, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
The motion carries. Next, we have the approval of the School Facilities Board 2022 Capital Plan. Mrs. Berry.
Madam President, members of the board, the Chandler Unified School District 2022 Capital Plan has been submitted to the Arizona School Facilities Board, which we refer to as SFB. This is a draft capital plan and may be revised at a later date. So we're asking for your approval tonight. Now, in the past, we would be asking for specific projects, but we have met when we applied for our new high school, which is located on Gilbert Road. We knew that would be our last high school based on the demographer and our internal estimations of where we're going with our growth. And so we don't have any new requests for new high schools, junior highs, or elementaries, and so you won't see new requests like you have in the past. The last 2 years, there's not a new request. So really, every year, it's still a requirement that we turn in this information. There's enrollment information on the first page, which is different than the average daily membership, which is another request on the back side. So different numbers because enrollment is different than average daily membership. It also gives you where we're taking open enrollment from other districts, and it's just information. We don't qualify for any new dollars. They have a demographer that works for the State Department, confirms our numbers, but for us, it's still a requirement that we turn in our capital plan by September 1st of this fiscal year. So an obligation that we need to do.
Thank you, Mrs. Berry.
Welcome.
Could I please get a motion?
Madam President, I make a motion to approve Chandler Unified School District's 2022 capital plan.
Second.
Is there any discussion?
I do have a question. The couple of chillers that we're doing, are they on the old capital plan or are they on this capital plan?
So this capital plan is specifically for new construction and items related to that. So underneath the building renewal, Mr. Fletcher will be applying for specific grants for building renewal dollars, but this is mostly for new capital. That's why they have the ADM. That's why the enrollment shows up in the average daily membership. And for us, for many of years, we've used this as the piece that starts the dialogue with the State Department related to how many students we have, projected growth. We have internally, we would estimate what our numbers were. We used our outside demographer, and then the State Department would use their demographer, and that would come up with how much money we qualified for under the legislation in the state set amount for new construction.
Okay, that makes sense.
We have no new construction.
Thank you.
Mrs. Berry, you probably mentioned this, but could you clarify that where we have under the open enrollment, those are open enrollments that we are accepting within our district that are coming from outside?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from the board? Okay, all those in favor of approving the capital plan, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion carries. Our last is our school district annual expenditure budget revision number 1. We had a public hearing concerning this at 6:30 this evening prior to the board meeting. Mrs. Berry.
Madam President, members of the board, on or before September 15th, the board may revise the district budget following a public hearing. If due to legislative enactment or non-enactment after May 1st, the budget is based on incorrect limits, does not include items authorized by law, or does not otherwise conform with the law. No later than September 18th, the budget as adjusted shall be submitted electronically to the superintendent of public instruction. So this was the change that we talked about during the public hearing. Ultimately, we had to revise the budget by the 15th, and then we submitted off to the Arizona Department of Education. 2 major changes happened because the legislature closed so late in the session that we had to adjust for the special education weights, 2 of those weights, and then we had to adjust for the base support level because we used an estimate for that. We used the old weights for special ed when we put the proposal together, and we used an estimate for the base support. So that differed about $1.1 million. So we went from $333 million up to $334 million in our M&O revised budget. The only other item we added wasn't required, but we updated was our new federal projects amount with the new federal dollars through the governor, and that's approximately $11 million. So those were the 2 adjustments we talked during the hearing, and we're asking for your approval tonight.
Thank you, Mrs. Berry. Could I please get a motion?
Madam President, I recommend the adoption of the 2021-2022 District Annual Expenditure Budget, Revision Number 1.
Second.
Are there any questions or comments? I think we had everything taken care of at this study session, public hearing section. So all those in favor of the revision of or budget revision number 1 for the 2021-2022 budget, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion carries. Now we'll move on to our information items, and it looks like we have more policy revisions. This legislature was very, very busy this year with revisions. Mr. Fletcher.
Madam President, members of the board, the Arizona School Boards Association has recommended changes to policy DJ purchasing, which really is your ethics policy. Due to House Bill 2210 amending section 15342, we are bringing to you for your information the following changes in this policy. The governing board may provide food and beverages at school district events, including official school functions and trainings, as allowed by the Arizona Constitution and policies of the Department of Education. Again, this is for your information. We'll bring it back to you for action at the next meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Fletcher. Do our school board members have any questions? Okay, thank you. Next, we have our pre-K through 6th grade English language arts resource adoption. Dr. Gilbert?
Madam President, members of the board, there's a demand for vertically articulated comprehensive pre-K through 6 English language arts resources to meet requirements of the Arizona ELA standards. Chandler Unified School District Curriculum and Instruction Team has established an aggressive textbook adoption timeline, released a comprehensive request for information, which is an RFI, which closed on May 28th, 2021, and created a collaborative review process. Attached for review are the K through 6 literacy textbook adoption timelines, comprehensive pre-K through 6 literacy adoption RFI, evaluation instruments utilized by educators and parents to evaluate the program and materials, and summary or educator and parent responses. Through the initial phase of review, 2 vendors, Houghton Mifflin Harcourt, grades K through 5, and Savas, grade 6, have moved forward in the evaluation process to provide vertical articulated comprehensive instructional materials for the content area of English language arts. Materials from the identified vendors have been evaluated by pre-K through 6 educators at various elementary sites across the district and via digital resource access. In accordance with ARS 15-721 and CUSD policy IJJ, the materials will be on display in the main lobby of the CUSD Instructional Resource Center for 60 days, beginning September 9th, 2021 for public view and input. Digital access for the materials on the 60-day review will be available for public review, also through a website that is connected through the IRC. A final recommendation is anticipated at the regular scheduled board meeting on November 10th, 2021. I also have Dr. Edgar through our curriculum instruction department, who has led this team here to share a brief presentation on the process, as well as answer any questions that you might have on this item. Thank you, Dr. Edgar.
Well, we might need some assistance in logging back in here because I had my presentation on the desktop, but President Mazden, Mr. Narducci, members of the board, thank you for having me here tonight. we felt it was very important to share a brief presentation about the process of the pre-K 6 adoption, adding some visuals to that lengthy information item so that everybody can see exactly how that process took place. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Gilbert. All right. So this is the pre-K 6 English Language Arts Adoption PowerPoint presentation. Like I said, we wanted to make sure that we have transparency with our community members and our stakeholders to share with you what that process looked like. So we will certainly go through this PowerPoint, and hopefully this provides you a little more information in addition to the statement just read. So the first thing we needed to do is we needed to establish needs. So this is a visual picture of our journeys piece that we use for our ELA in our elementary at this point in time. We were looking for another resource that was comprehensive with the core, with the phonemic awareness components, phonics, fluency, vocabulary, and comprehension. We're also looking at the vertical articulation components as we look at the pre-K-12 spectrum and what that does for our students in the academic arena. The reading standards have not changed. So that is something typically we will do at textbook adoption when the reading standards change. But when reading standards do change at the state of Arizona, they're broken up where there's very little movement. But what happened is establishing the need is that Journeys just wasn't working for our teachers anymore and our students. We've had to piece together some other resources, vetted, established research evidence-based resources to make sure that we meet the science of reading components. Journeys met that for us for quite some time, and now we're looking at the future and how can we meet those unfinished learning pieces. This is a timeline that was presented in the board documentation, and I believe it was posted on our website previously. So this is something that we started a long time ago with in May 28, 2021, is where we started with all the vendor submissions. And then we had an evaluation committee work June 1st through 4th to narrow down. And as you can see, we're here now at the September 8th, 2021 governing board meeting. So we did take a lot of time to really figure out what that process would look like, how the professional development will also play out as we look at the adoption of a new ELA resource. So from submissions, we were able to narrow down to three different pieces, three different vendors as we started this process. And what we did is during the round one piece where we took all of the administrative components, where we had an administrator there, we had instructional coaches as well as special education instructional coaches. We had all of the vendors looked at, we used the adapted IMET, and then we came down to these three particular vendors for round two. So we have World of Wonders for pre-kindergarten, which was a submission for that pre-kindergarten component with aligning kindergarten through 6th grade Wonders, both the same vendors. HMH, Into Reading for kindergarten grades through grade 6, and then My Perspectives with grade 6 as well. So what we had to do is had to look at a few things. The first piece that we wanted to look at was we wanted to look at that pre-K-12 vertical articulation that we discussed. We're also looking at the fiscal responsibility too, because in looking at the pre-kindergarten early childhood pieces, we had just adopted a few years back, actually I believe it was 5 years back, Big Day. So that's an HMH, that is the vendor's HMH. So the possibilities, we were able to come up with 4 different pathways. So pathway number 1 is World of Wonders and Wonders. So the two particular vendors, that was pathway number 1. Pathway number 2 was World of Wonders and Wonders, but then instead of having that 6th grade piece from Wonders, using the My Perspectives to look at that vertical articulation, because we use My Perspectives in our junior high and high schools at this time. Pathway 3 is using Big Day, which is what we currently have, which is an HMH product. And so using that Big Day piece as well as Into Reading, which would be the new HMH product, so vertical articulation from pre-K to 6. And then pathway number 4 is also continuing to use Big Day since it was most recently adopted, which is an HMH product, for that early childhood piece. Into Reading, which is HMH from kindergarten through 5th grade, and then the My Perspectives, which is 6th grade, which would align with our junior high and high school adopted text. So as we went from round 1, which was all internal staff, we went into round 2. And it's important that we discuss that we use the IMET, which is the Instructional Materials Evaluation Tool, which is a tool that's provided to us, but we adapted it just a bit. And the reason we adapted it, we had 9 different criterion, but the last 3 criterion were very important to us as a district. And it was a collaborative discussion amongst departments to make sure that we looked at the resources that had appropriate assessment for us to use. Different student supports as we look at our special education students' possible acceleration, interventions, EL students, and making sure that there's a well-rounded resource that we are adopting. And then the intentional design, which also includes components from our educational technology piece, so that there is that communication on that ed tech side, so that we're able to utilize not just the textbook, but have those digital components as well. So, reviewing the information for round 2, just to share with you, and I know that Dr. Gilbert had stated this in the information item, but the participants that we invited were site council parents. We asked our 32 elementary schools, that does include Elementary Connect, to provide us with the contact information from our site council members, so we could have them be part of this round 2 review. Also, we invited all pre-K 6 teachers to come to the round 2 review. Administrators, site administrators, that's APs, deans, as well as principals were also invited, and other instructional coaches that were not part of the initial round 1 review. We had 2 options for review. I know this was discussed at previous board meetings too by Ms. Bruner in regards to access. Access is something that's very important to us, so we want to look at how could we do this in person as well as virtual. So in the previous slide, there was a red notebook, and that was actually what our teachers received. And this one is a digital notebook too. It's not interactive right now, but it was pretty fantastic. We had a great team working on this project, and that was for our parents. So our parents were also able to come in person or review the products virtually. So our teachers were also able to do that. So out of the responses that we were provided, we had 104 educator responses and 66 parent responses. And we're pretty proud of that 66 parent response because it just shows us that our community and our stakeholders really do want to be involved in this process. So thank you for those that participated. So we're going to review the educator results and the parent review results. But before I go ahead and talk about the numbers, it's important to talk about the key. So the key, the yellow gold piece, that's the pre-kindergarten responses. K-5 is in purple. And then 6th grade, because we have 3 different vendors, it is in the maroon color. So in pre-K for McGraw-Hill, because we were only looking at that one particular product versus our big data we already had, the overall rating was 3.34. In K-5, which is the HMH versus the McGraw-Hill, reminding you that the HMH Big Day pre-K piece is something we already had. HMH came out at 3.55 and McGraw-Hill's at 3.205. In 6th grade, we have HMH 3.45, McGraw-Hill 3.08, and Savas, which is my perspectives, 4.09. And just a reminder, that's the educator results. Our parent results follow the same color code, with the gold being the pre-K at 4.5. Also noting that the big day piece that we already have in play was also considered. HMH for our K-5 was 5.22. McGraw-Hill was 4.78. And then for 6th grade, we have HMH 4.96, McGraw-Hill at 5.15, and Savas at a 5. So you'll see there's a little bit of a difference in the 6th grade piece with the 6th grade parent input versus the 6th grade educator input. So we wanted to summarize some of the comments for you as we looked at some of those top scorers. So the inter-reading comments, which is the HMH K-5 piece, educators, and these are our direct quotes. So educators stated that HMH supports the language development approach. There's strong assessment component with opportunity for future planning based on the results. Formatting of the teacher's edition is organized for ease of use. And instruction of foundational skills are explicit and systematic. Our parents stated that the resources are usable, they're approachable and engaging, even from that parent view, and that there are diverse text selections. And there's an asterisk next to selections because that came up multiple times throughout the comments that parents provided for us, is that there is that inclusivity that our parents and our stakeholders are looking to have in an adoption. For my perspectives, which came out on top for educators and slightly below for parents, we have the educator response, the comments, a few of the comments, that the series provides the most rigor for 6th grade. As I sit and listen to our community and what we are doing internally too at CUSD, with the comments with the teachers and the work that we're doing with administrators, we are looking for additional rigor. So the series provides the most rigor for 6th grade. It explicitly teaches study skills and writing techniques, which is critical. The writing component was something that was definitely evaluated very critically. And the parent stated the series came with trade books, and there are trade books, and during the 60-day review, we have a list of those trade books so that parents will be able to identify what those trade books are and really provide feedback. So as stated in the information item, we have a resource pathway for our 60-day review. To be fiscally responsible and to have that pre-K-12 curriculum vertically articulated is we're looking at keeping our big day. Because it was so newly and most recently adopted, it wasn't that much different than what was provided for us. And we feel that it would really align with, because it is an HMH product, with Into Reading, which is K-5, also an HMH product. And then my perspectives to have that vertical articulation into the junior high schools, to have that my perspectives for grade 6. So in the 60-day review process, the materials will still be available at the IRC as typical out in the foyer. If you could make contact with us, we'll certainly have somebody out there to help you through those materials. Also, we will be having the digital access provided for our parents. So that's something that will be up tomorrow morning as well. We'll have the publisher videos as part of our RFI to have the publishers provide videos in regards to their actual components of these resources, so that will be available. And then we have a picture to the right about the curriculum feedback form on the CUSD website. We want to make sure that our parents that can come in person, they can come in person who need that. If the parents need to view it digitally, we have that available. And then this curriculum feedback form, which is up for all of our curriculum all the time on our CUSD website. But that's the feedback form that we're going to look at during the 60-day review to really look at what is the input, what is the feedback, and how can we address some of those pieces as we move forward. Our contact, our fantastic instructional coach and the lead on this project was Catherine Lynch, and I put her information up there. She is one of many coaches that can help you should you contact the Instructional Resource Center. But we want to make sure that we have this up and share with you how we want to get you involved. Please provide us feedback in that 60-day review. And that is the end of this presentation.
I had a question.
Thank you.
I had a question about something, if I could. The My Perspectives, is that the HMH?
No, it's actually Savvis is
That's
the publisher.
Savvis.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry, it's confusing with publishers and the actual title of the textbook.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it definitely can be confusing. It took me a little while as I was reading through this, like, which one
And
is
I've
which.
lived it for
Yes.
so long, so I apologize.
That's okay. So we do encourage all the public members to really go take a look at the curriculum that we're for our English language arts at the IRC, or contact, if you go to our agenda for this board meeting, down in our information items, in the presentation, it will have all those all the contact information down there. Or you can contact the Instructional Resource Center. The phone number is 480-224-3700. And please, review those, because we do want your input on that. This is part of our community engagement, and we want to hear from you. So please go and fill out the feedback forms. And sometimes rarely we get comments on some things. So this is going to impact all of our pre-K all the way through our sixth graders for their English language arts development and curriculum. So are there any other questions from the board? Yes, Ms. Love.
I had one regarding the HMH into reading comments for parents. What exactly did they mean by diverse text selections?
Oh, so inside the actual book, there are multiple stories, so they're excerpts from larger stories most of the time. So we looked at the pieces where are there visual representations of students that maybe have different disabilities, or that there are different various authors too, so that we're not just sitting in one genre, nonfiction, fiction, inclusive, the diversity within the actual pictures too, and the representation that way.
So like characters that look like and represent our students.
Correct. Our diverse student population, that was something that was very important to parents when they reported back, the parents that responded at this time.
Wonder why parents thought that was important, but never mind. You don't have to answer that.
Are there any other questions, comments? Thank you, Dr. Edgar. I appreciate it, and I know this has been a lot of work. And typically, how long this adoption looks like it's going to be taking over a year to actually implement, and we would be looking at utilizing this starting in the fall of next year.
Yes, fall of 2022 is what we're looking at doing. We're already working, with human resources about those professional development pieces regarding any adoption that we would do. We work very closely with human resources to see how we can get professional development in during the springtime as well as possible summertime. And so we'll work on that professional development plan to make sure that it is accessible and good for our students and our teachers.
Thank you.
Madam President, just a real quick comment. This process, Dr. Gilbert, Dr. Edgar, and various teams have started way early. They were really on top of this before even last year, knowing that we were going to need to update our adoption series, which just doesn't, we want something with a little bit more rigorous as well. We've been getting feedback as well on that. And so I do appreciate all the work they're doing. They're right in the middle of the storm of it, because round 2 is a big one. And then that comes down to a lot of input on final selection. So we do encourage everybody to get their input in. We'd like to get responses from individuals. So that plea for parents to get their input in is very valued. And thank you, Dr. Edgar, for all the work that you're doing with that.
Thank you, Mr. Narducci. Next, we'll go on to our board agenda roadmap. Our next meeting is September 22nd. I guess there is a law conference going on today and tomorrow and maybe Friday. And we will, next meeting, we will be looking at our Journey 2025 metrics and the proposed metrics for the year. And it looks like, which is, I think, where we'll also be looking at some of the data. Mr. Narducci will be looking at some of the data as to where we are on a lot of, currently on the metrics then. Correct, rather than just
Correct.
the proposals.
Dr. Fletcher, Dr. Jen Fletcher, who will be doing a presentation on our benchmarks and also on comparison data of how our students did with unfinished learning as compared to other districts our size and demographics across the state. So she'll have some great data there. We really want to start talking about education, and that's what we do best, and we want to try to get that focus back in front of everybody. I think we have some places to go, but I think you're going to be surprised that our kids did a great job and our parents did a great job and teachers did as well, minimizing that learning loss. So we'll be looking at all that next meeting. So I'm looking forward to that.
Thank you, Mr. Narducci. And it's time for your comments then.
Sure. Thank you, Madam President. We had a few students here. I was going to thank them. They were doing their project. You saw 3 students in the front. They're actually getting started on some project work that they're doing, so I just wanted to applaud them whenever they're here to do that. Usually they have to get their signatures of one of us, and so I hope they didn't leave without that, and then all of a sudden that paper's not going to be due. We'll make sure, Mr. Gilbert, that we make sure that that gets done, okay? It's hard to believe that it's been 20 years since the tragic events of 9/11. Naturally, none of our current students were even born when this attack on our nation occurred. There will be age-appropriate discussions and activities around the district on Friday as we commemorate Patriot Day. CUSD will fly our flags at half-staff on Friday, September 10th, in memory of individuals impacted and those that were lost. Our first responders should be remembered all the time, and they continue to make an impact on our communities in a very positive way and honorable way. And so we just want to keep them in mind as we depend on them in need, and they're always there. We also take pride in one of our former students, Corporal Lance Nieder, a 2020 Castile High School graduate, just completed his U.S. Marine Basic Training Camp and finished number 1 in his class of 430 enlistees. Lance is an impressive young man and with a great future, and we thank him for serving our country as well. We have some news to report about Chandler Education Television, which is our CET. Mike Holland, who is behind that wall, I hope you're listening on the other side. CET is now live on the local BTV app, which is available free at the Google Play Store and App Store. The app makes our channel viewable via stream from anywhere in Metro Phoenix area. We are the first educational access channel on the app, which does include several municipalities, including the city of Chandler. Also, the Chandler Education Foundation will host its 20th annual golf tournament and fundraiser at 7:30 a.m. Friday. I'm sure people will be setting up at 5 o'clock a.m. The golf tournament is held at Whirlwind Golf Club, and the foundation does so much for our students, staff, and schools. This is one of 3 fundraisers annually that support programs like the Impact Chandler Scholars, Scholars and Scholarships, as well as our ability to grant teachers additional assistance. We're blessed to have such an effective nonprofit organization raising private dollars that directly benefits CUSD students and staff. Led by Executive Director Jen Hewitt, staff and an impressive all-volunteer board, they're making a positive difference, and we are thankful and appreciative of their efforts. I know we received many concerns and frustrations tonight regarding Maricopa County Public Health and the required quarantine procedures that CUSD had to put into place. What I want to say is when we opened up our procedures and everybody saw those, they were listed, we gave parents choice, and we also gave the school choice on quarantining. We were noticed by Maricopa County Public Health, by Dr. Sonnenschein, as well as Mary Flanagan, who's the executive director. And I've been in many phone calls expressing your concerns. I've been on many live chats expressing your concerns and our concerns, and also asked to look at quarantine data, just as you've told me, many of you have told me, do we look at that? We're not hiding behind Maricopa County, but in the state as well as the Arizona Public Health has given the authorities to the county for quarantining only based on the fact of infectious disease control. They have the power to close us down. They have the power to be able to do that. Now, I understand a lot of people have other pieces, but this is the primary piece that we have to follow. I was noticed by the county, not only in writing, but on the phone, and I've attended with other West Valley schools and East Valley school superintendents who were contacted that they have the authority in public, charter, and private schools to follow required quarantine guidance. Maricopa County Department of Public Health is requiring our district to act on its behalf to notify parents of our school students due to the close contact with a positive COVID-19 person and the quarantine requirements. We will continue to provide your feedback and concerns. I will definitely bring them to Maricopa County Department of Public Health because we know this pandemic and this crisis has had an impact on our student learning and our students. But when the district is obligated to comply, we open up our culpability a little bit more by not following the compliance. I know that some of my fellow superintendents, because I meet with them early in the morning, have been noticed as well. I know some of our charters, and I know some of our privates have been noticed as well. If you need assistance with connecting to instruction, we will do our best to do that. I promise you. Just let our schools know and let us know. I got to talk to a couple of students here. I don't like quarantining healthy students. We don't. But it's a mandate of what we have to do. A lot of people say recommended. It is required, and we were told it was required because the County Board of Supervisors stated the requirement, and I specifically asked, along with my peers, is it a requirement, is it a mandate, or is it just a recommendation? We were told requirement, and so that's why the change was made. We'll continue to work with your frustration, and we understand the impacts to our family. We do. We hear it. And I will continue to bring that to Dr. Sonnenschein, who is the lead epidemiologist, talked a lot tonight. And I'll continue to bring that to Mary Flanagan in our county. A lot of you have already contacted them, or people that are not here today, and they voiced their opinions too. And I appreciate that, because we've had conversations about that and you've followed through. So I appreciate that as well. We'll keep you updated on that, and we'll continue to work with the situation we're under and try to limit our impact on students. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Narducci. Are there any board comments for this evening? Mr. Olive?
I had one thing. Test scores, there were some folks during public comment that cited test scores. Are there official test scores out yet?
Dr. Fletcher, do you want to address that? She's our lead expert.
Good evening, President, members of the board. Yes, the Arizona Department of Education published their AZ Merit statewide assessment public file. They publish one every year. It contains all the results aggregated and disaggregated at a multitude of levels. So you have a state level, by all assessments, by district, by charter, by subgroup, by grade, by test level. It is publicly available on their website. I can send the link out later this evening. If you would like to access it, you can download the last 5 to 8 years worth of data.
When do they publish that?
It changes every year. They just published it this week. Normally, it's typically October, November. Because then this window, they're usually doing statewide letter grades, which is their priority before the public file.
Okay. It would be helpful if we got test scores as soon as they're reliable and available, and a little bit of help in understanding what they are and why they are.
Mr. Oliver, we're going to start with that at the benchmark review next on the 22nd. And so Dr. Fletcher will go through, because our metrics are dependent on that. And so she'll be reviewing that at the next meeting as well. And then we can also hold some sessions with individual board meetings so that it's not a quorum. If people want more assistance too, her department's willing to do that as well.
Okay, thank you. That would be appreciated.
Thank you. Are there any other comments or questions? We appreciate everyone coming this evening, and thank you, and this meeting is adjourned. Have a good evening.